Hello and welcome to Silkway Studio in Astana. Today we are going to present you a joint panel discussion on the agenda of SCO Summit, but also we will provide you with the deep insights on the range of topics, including regional cooperation and building a multilateral dialogue through SCO platforms. Today I'm joined by my colleague, Tiana Wei.
Hello.
From China Global Television Network, CGTN, and our distinguished panelists who have joined us here in the studio and also online.
Thank you so much, Ainur. It's such a pleasure to be here in Astana. Hello from Astana and welcome to CGTN and Silkway TV joint presentation, SCO Building Strength Through Multilateral Dialogue. I'm Tian Wei, together with my colleague, Ainur Imangali. The 2024 SCO Summit is being held in Astana this week. Participants are gathering here to pursue the organization's development and to contribute more to lasting peace and common prosperity. Ainur, as you can see, the SCO now is the most populous regional organization, large-scale platforms for multilateral dialogue and cooperation.
Yes, and it truly creates a new cooperation model featuring inclusiveness, mutual learning and win-win results. This year, Kazakhstan holds the rotating SCO presidency. China is the next one. There are deep ties between two countries, and now we have entered, as many experts note, a golden age of rapid development and cooperation in various fields.
Congratulations to the presidency of Kazakhstan for SCO Summit this year, and also the great achievements bilaterally between China and Kazakhstan. Both bilateral and multilateral relations deserve a deeper understanding. I think we can learn many insights from today's discussion.
Absolutely. Now let us dive into some in-depth answers.
So, in our program today, we are very glad and honored to be joined by a great and distinguished panel. They are Ambassador Kiryat Sarabay, who is the SICA Secretary General. Mr. Ambassador, what a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Ji Yangdong, who is an assistant professor from strategy and entrepreneurship at the Graduate School of Business at Nazarbayev University. Professor Dong, good to see you.
Thank you.
Also, we have Kairat Sadvakasov, chairman of the management board Kazakh Tourism National Company, who has also joined us here in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to
Welcome.
be here.
And Mohammad Marandi, professor at Tehran University, who is joining us from Tehran, Iran, via Zoom. Good to have all of you with us.
Absolutely. Good to see all of you gentlemen.
And let me start our discussion today, our panel session, by addressing my question to Ambassador Sarabay. Kazakhstan is located at the center of Eurasian continent. We know that at the crossroads of different civilizations and also in the center of different trade routes, right? For example, we are talking about Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, which we know as Middle Corridor. It provides transport routes connections between east and the west part of the Eurasian continent and runs through territories of China, of Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and then to Europe. China and Kazakhstan have been cooperating in jointly building the Belt and Road Initiative, successfully cooperating and making connectivity routes covering roads, railways, airways, and other modes of transport. I want to ask this: what is the significance of this kind of interconnectivity and how can it support the regional development?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. The question is quite topical because we enter into the age of connectivity. It is a distinguished strategist and bestseller author, Parag Khanna, who wrote about the connectivity, and he advocating that well-connected Asia will serve to the better connected world. What is Asia today? Asia today growing again or coming back to its historical stage of driver of the global civilization. Nowadays, Asia is an economic motor and engine of global economic development. Asia becoming also a very viable and important political actor. You can see that China, for instance, can negotiate between different stakeholders and bring peace to themselves. take, for instance, the improvement of relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So there are many aspects to say that Asia is now on its new age of importance for the global development, and that is why if Asia will be better connected within each other, it will be better for the global connectivity, it will be better for the global economic development, it will be better also to the people-to-people connectivity, which bring also economic health, economic wealth, and political stability. So that is why I'm pretty much sure that the project that was launched, by the way, by His Excellency President Xi in 2013, and I was at that time a part of Kazakh Ministry of Foreign Affairs in charge of Asia, and was very much encouraged by this global project that was called initially as an economic belt of the Silkway. By the way, we are in the studio of Silkway.
Yes, Silkway TV channel.
So that was the initial point, which grown to be a global connectivity, a mega connectivity project. And
Belt and Road.
And I'm happy that Belt and Road today well accepted. And whenever you're talking about connectivity, you need a partnership. And I'm pretty much proud that Kazakhstan and China, they found the way of cooperating, that the benefits will be not just for bilateral relations. The entire region, call it the Central Asia entire or the middle of the Eurasia, we will benefit because it was previously very much landlocked region, and nowadays through the connectivity, through the projects like Belt and Road Initiative, this region became land-linked region. So I think we can see the huge impact of this project, which again growing, binding from the west to the east, from the north to the south.
And it also, yes, can contribute into regional development heavily. Yes.
Absolutely. I love that putting China and Kazakhstan, Mr. Ambassador, together with the bigger context of Asia and also the Belt and Road Initiative, which is spanning even beyond Asia. Tell us more, if I could follow up a little bit before moving on to our next question, is how do you see the two are finding each other, readjusting to all of the latest situations, whether it's geopolitical or economic and trade, the latest environment. How do you see the two are finding each other during the whole process?
I think the both sides are pursuing a very pragmatic approach first, but the principle is quite important. From the scratch, Belt and Road Initiative was proposed as a voluntary, but requested the voluntary participations. So it means that if you will pushing by force, you will not get anything. But because of the approach, the principal approach from the scratch was the pragmatism first, and second, the voluntary participation to the project. That, I guess, was very much attractive. Of course, we have to talk also the financial part. It means that countries that afford their project from their own, they are invited to use their own financial investment. In case the international instruments are used, for instance, the Asian Infrastructural Investment Bank. So there are different models how member states can be part of this huge project. But again, the most important issue that this is a voluntary participation of member states, of participants, and it promotes the economic availability of all partners, which can in return then be used for the repayment or to return of the investments.
So Kazakh and China found each other in that way.
And I believe that without Kazakhstan, China couldn't promote on a such level its global mega project. And the country, Kazakhstan, badly need to be connected to the world markets through the connectivity towards the east. So there are a very much pragmatic ways based on the mutual interest and equal partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Equal partnership. That's always the principle of doing business, isn't it, Professor Dong?
Exactly.
When you think about China, Kazakhstan, China is Kazakhstan's biggest trading partner. 31 billion for the last year. Impressive, particularly given the international environment. So how do you see, the next stage when both sides are very ambitious about bringing their economic and trade tie to another level? What is that chance they're holding right now?
So, according to looking at the trading volume, we're already seeing that Chinese-Kazakh trade represent to more than 1/5 of Kazakhstan's total trade volume. And it is already shown robustly by international business studies that naturally trade will lead to more bilateral investment. And this is what we're observing, that not only we have this year-by-year trading going on, but also we see Chinese businesses are interested in a variety of business sectors here in Kazakhstan. We know that this includes the traditional energy sector, renewable energy sector, and also agriculture, mining, and more interestingly, more and more into the manufacturing industry. This aligns actually also very well with Kazakhstan's Multilateral program, which is for the bright path, leads to more diversification of the economy, reduction on the over-reliance on just the oil and gas industry, and obviously leading to economic resilience in Kazakhstan. So I see the win-win results that we have been emphasizing about.
That's very interesting, and I want to develop this topic of, economic developments, developing economic ties with two countries. And this is very important notion that last year two countries introduced mutual visa-free agreements, and it officially took effect. This year, as we know, Kazakhstan Tourism Year has also been launched in China, and we have Kairat Sadvakasov here who may comment on this topic specifically. So what can both sides do in terms of enhancing this people-to-people contact, this cultural exchange through introducing these kinds of programs?
This year's success in terms of arrivals of Chinese tourists started back in 2015 when we signed the first visa-free for group travelers. So back in the day, you would only have one person showing up at Kazakh embassy receiving one visa for the entire group. And now, 10 years down the road, we see it completely visa-free, and it's mutual, and I'm happy we could actually Chinese government could reciprocate with visa-free, which is unprecedented in this region and probably in the entire world. So we are happy, and we saw the results immediately. The 2023 already yielded 12-fold growth of arrivals from Chinese to tourists.
That's impressive.
So, well, in absolute terms, it's still very low. It's around 400,000 people, but we are targeting to double that figure by the year end, thanks to the year of Kazakhstan's tourism in China, which was proclaimed last year by both presidents, and we see unprecedented interest, both in terms of investment, in terms of tourists, in terms of cooperation, and the investment side into tourism is really difficult because it has a longer payoff period. Probably hotels will get their investment return in 10 years, but that's not stopping Chinese investors because they see this long-term relationship. That's the closest neighbor that can provide both the investment and actually the influx of tourists. So basically, Chinese investors are coming to build in order to serve their own countrymen coming to Kazakhstan. So I think that's the most important point in collaboration in terms of tourism. As the ambassador mentioned, this people-to-people connectivity are very important. I think the tourism field is actually the one that can provide this peer-to-peer and people-to-people connectivity.
What expectations do we have for the rest of the year with this program Kazakhstan launched in China, tourism, the year of Kazakh tourism in China?
I'm sorry, I just came back from China actually yesterday. Yes, and this is my third visit within 3 months. And my colleagues from different regions of Kazakhstan will keep traveling until the end of the year. So we'll end up probably close to 40 different events throughout China. Of course, we're looking at major cities, but we will try to go a little bit into the bush and then try to promote ourselves in kind of off the beaten destinations in China. And our different regions have a lot to offer, anything from traditional medicine, ecotourism, to tremendous landscapes that the Western Kazakhstan can offer, or modern shopping and city tours that Almaty has with its tremendous night scene, and of course Astana with its so-called MICE events, which is basically the meetings, incentives, conference, and exhibitions. So we see this interest across the board from Chinese travelers, from Chinese businesses. So it's just a matter of accommodating and digesting this huge flow. And
Yes.
that's something we have to work on.
And it's
Yeah.
a lot more than Kazakhstan can offer in terms of tourism too.
Yeah, and private sector, not only the state sector, but private sector are so eager to cooperate with one another from both sides as well, right, Professor Dong?
Exactly. So we know that, which is a common trend among the Belt and Road Initiative member countries. Normally, we observe a trend of state-owned companies first coming and lay the infrastructure and make the business environment familiar for the Chinese business community in general. Then the risk-averse and more cautioned capital from the private sector, they will follow up on that. But here in Kazakhstan, as an academic living and working here for 6 years, I have experienced something quite interesting in a sense. The synergistic value between the Chinese private economy and Kazakhstan's private economy is so close. They come at a time not necessarily easily captured by the statistics. I'll give one example of a Chinese e-commerce platform we're all familiar with, which is called Pinduoduo. This company has built a very loyal and expanding customer base. I dare to say, without the active anticipation and intervention from Pinduoduo's very management. Because the way it happened is that Kazakhstani customers, they looked at the Chinese application, they ordered and delivered to a Chinese address.
Right.
After that, for Pinduoduo's management, this is a domestic order. Then some ingenious Kazakhstan entrepreneurs, they took the business over. They arranged the cross-border logistics.
Wow, like that.
And people buy a variety of household items and also entertainment items, everything we can imagine from that platform. Without the company even is aware of, they have already successfully expanded and even built a dominant presence here.
You
My
can tell.
14-year-old son is using this platform
Right.
to order.
Yes,
I was
think
just
it's
about
like
to
a-
say, you can tell that's a gentleman shopping online a lot,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Or
Business
teaching students.
intelligence.
Right.
Yes.
So please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up here and to ask you about your, maybe a little bit of your personal experience here, living in Kazakhstan. You've mentioned that 6 years
Yes.
you've been living and working here. And today, Kazakhstan being like a jewel on the Silk Road, ancient routes, right, have so many to offer in terms of tourism, in terms of culture, and we have this cultural exchange happening already. For example, Confucius Institutes can be found in Kazakhstan, right, and cultural centers are planned to be built in Beijing and Astana. So we are collaborating and we have cooperation in different areas, including culture, education, transport, logistics, business, and also tourism. So my question is here: how, what is your view on further people-to-people cultural exchange, and what is maybe your personal experience of living here and feeling this? All of this is happening in reality.
Certainly. I have been, me and my family, we have been really treated well by our Kazakhstan friends, and we realized, a lot of common traits among our two civilizations. Although one is agriculture-based, one is a nomadic-based civilization, but we share a lot of commonality. Hospitality. My friends invite our family to their home, enjoy Bishma Mark and a very inviting environment. And I noticed also, despite our differences in the civilizational nature, we share the same profound love for poetry and nature. So the poet, great Kazakhstani poet Abai, is just adored as much as we in China adore Li Bai. And so people really appreciate the poetry and the philosophy, wisdom in that. And also I noticed Kazakhstan people's respect and love for nature is very similar to what the Chinese painters, the artists try to express themselves. One really kind of characteristic feature I appreciate the most is the names. You have the beautiful female names like Bodagos, the cute eyes of baby camel, right? Or like Anur. Like
Yes.
it's a moonlight,
Moonlight,
right? A lot of
exactly.
this beautiful natural kind of appreciation is reflected in people's cultural expression. That's where I feel there's a natural bonding between our two deep ancient culture, and this is a natural impetus and for the two nations to build further cultural and people-to-people exchange.
Yes.
Well, Ambassador Sarabay, you can tell this gentleman has already taken away by the Kazakh culture. But how, in fact, not only from family, individuals like that, be able to cut two countries, by the way, they are both members of SICA, to get to know each other more than skin deep, which is very crucial when we try to understand each other and cooperate for the future.
Absolutely, I agree totally, because indeed, looking to the history, we have to admit that there are pages during which we created some walls. Nowadays, it's a great touristic attractivity close to the one of the capital. But I think that now we have to build not on the walls. We have to build on what Professor Dong correctly said, what is the commonality. Because there are some fears, there are some phobias still within the population. Specifically, if we're talking about Kazakhstan, you can imagine a vast territory with a very modest number of population, 20 million. And neighboring countries, 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
So we have to digest first this partnership on an equal base. We should overcome all that stereotypes that were created during the history by not only historical narratives, but also by the support of some others. So we have to have to carefully go into the deep cultural ties, and we can find a lot of similarities. I told you that I went to Chinese traditional opera. The first act was very attractive. The second, it was a bit boring. But when the action developed on the stage, I dived into without the understanding of the
lyrics,
language.
yeah.
But however, it was such attractive. It was a very common history about the power of love, about the power of loyalty, about the power of friendship. And it was quite understandable. Without any lyrics, without any words, I was inside. And in the end of the opera, I just applauded, despite my jet lag, despite my heavy schedule, despite the pressure of my accompanying people to leave. No, it was great. So we have to build on further and further and further, and I believe that such common programs of different TV stations, we have to promote it further. We should reduce the heritage of previous historical phases. We have to go just to agree that the Chinese tourists, or vice versa, Kazakh tourists, will enrich your community, your local industry, your local businesses, because that will create new jobs.
Right.
That will create new opportunities.
Right. I want to report to my colleague Ayinur. Yesterday, I had a great walk in the city of Astana, and there are two young men coming up to me and ask me, "Are you from China?" I guess they just guessed that I might be a Chinese traveling over here. And I said, yes. And they began to talk in Chinese to me. Apparently, these two young gentlemen, one is a musician, one's worked in Hainan in a hotel as a guitar player. Very good voice, by the way. And second is a fitness trainer. They both worked in China over the past few years as a young person. So I was so much encouraged yesterday, just one 1 hour walk along the water in Astana. You know, these are just common folks. And I feel their desire to really share their experience about the other country with me and make me feel at home. So I also feel the same way this time at the Silkway TV. Thank you so much.
Yes. As Ambassador Sarubhai mentioned, it's very important nowadays, particularly, to boost this connectivity, interconnectivity on different levels, and through our share and joint programming as well. So I just want to maybe make a little bit of transition into economic cooperation and the Belt and Road Initiative. This initiative was founded here by the President Xi Jinping back in the day. So how, maybe my question will be to Professor Dong, how do you see the benefits of this bilateral cooperation under the BRI framework between Kazakhstan and China over this decade, let's say?
The overall benefits of this program, as I see it, if we may use an analogy, we could perhaps describe Kazakhstan's very unique position in the heart of Eurasia as a strategic asset, or even better, a superpower, stored safely in a safe box, which requires a key or a passcode to unlock it. And the very key or the passcode to unlock that superpower is connectivity projects, as we talked about. So a Trans-Caspian International Transportation Route is one, Hormuz port is one, and also the Western Europe and Western China highway is another one. So all of those connectivity projects really empowers Kazakhstan to reach its full potential. And this is a story repeated and shown in many emerging market economies, their takeoff. If we look just a bit eastward at China, at also South Korea or Vietnam, they are also located in very strategic position, the very western edge of the Pacific Ocean. But their economies' takeoff has to rely on the major advancement of maritime technology. So we have a bigger and more efficient maritime transportation mode and a standardization and the widespread of containers across different modes of transportation, trucks, trains, and also ocean liners, and the port's ability using updated technology to handle a vast amount of containers. And all our different nations, our common destinies are built on our ability to unlock our superpower. And I see the Belt and Road Initiative and the Trans-Caspian kind of international route is exactly that kind of a key that really integrate our economies together and propel our different nations towards our common prosperity.
You're watching Silkway TV and CGTN joint presentation, SCO builds strength through multilateral dialogue.
There's a lot of discussion about the bilateral relations, but no matter how exciting the bilateral relation is, we are also moving on to see this multilateral cooperation through the SCO. The summit is being held this week in Astana. This region, Central Asia, Eurasian area, one of the most vibrant of the world, plus a lot of activities going on from the Middle East as well. So how SCO will move actually attracts so much attention this year. On that, I really want to ask our colleagues sitting here today, how much do you see SCO has already carved out its role? Meanwhile, how much hope do you see, potential? The world is looking at SCO as a very vibrant and dynamic multilateral organization. I would love to go to you, Mr. Secretary General, to begin first, since you are coming from a sister or a brother organization, SICA.
Thank you. Indeed, SICA and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they're partnering. It's a long, long history of our partnership, and this is a very fruitful partnership, not only with Shanghai Cooperation Organization itself, but also with its regional anti-terrorist structure. So in the history, the both organizations were introduced by middle powers. And both emerged only because of the integrity of Asia. We're talking about the Central Asian countries, which got their first independence, and after that, the leaders of Central Asia realized that they must be well connected to first its own immediate neighborhood. And without the structure of multilateral approaches, it would be very difficult to do through only bilateral relations. And I call Kazakhstan the champion of multilateralism, because Kazakhstan used its middle power potential in a right way, inviting the immediate neighborhood to create the new network that wasn't ever in these parts of the world. The multilateral approaches to the multinational security understanding. So again, that was the convincing power of middle power, that together we can build a better future. And I'm very proud that Shanghai Cooperation Organization moved from the scratch, from the very confidence-building measures in the military sphere. So first, all parties decided to pull out the troops from the border. Then they decided also to establish the borders, to agree on the border issue, which was very crucial. Even in the pre-time, the relations between Soviet Union and People's Republic of China were somehow spoiled by the territorial issues. So the newly independent states were able to solve this issue, and that was the main main platform why all parties first, Shanghai Five, agreed on the principles.
Right.
That was the same time as SICA process emerged, and you see the very much similarity, because SICA is a larger platform with 28 member states, but still the corner of our interaction is to build the confidence between our member states.
Maybe we can also ask the newest number.
Yes, exactly.
Number?
Professor Marandi has joined us from Tehran, Iran, and my question to Professor Marandi about the role of SCO today in the current times. We know that organization today represents 40% of world population, having countries like China, like Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, also Central Asian Five. What is the real influence of SCO today, and what is the SCO's contribution into regional issues, global issues, and we're talking about regional development, right, of this continent?
We're seeing walls coming down between SCO countries. The Belt and Road Initiative, of course, is also key. And here I think it's also important to note how academias can be so influential and important. The article written by Professor Wang Jixi at Beijing University in 2012, Marching Westward, was a sort of response to Obama's pivot to Asia, where he was saying that China should look to Central Asia, China should look to West Asia, or back then the Middle East. And this connectivity this notion has become policy in China, and it has been welcomed across Asia. So now this connectivity that your esteemed guests have been discussing enables countries like Iran, countries across West Asia, to have access to Kazakhstan to China to the markets across Asia and vice versa, through Iran, for example, the Caucasus, the Black Sea, West Asia, the Mediterranean, the Arabian Peninsula are all accessible. And it's no longer just, therefore, trade that we've seen over the last couple of centuries that go through the sea. Now the sort of Silk Road of old has been revived, and therefore these countries that were landlocked are no longer really closed. They're the center of trade and business through railways, through roads, through air travel. So the world is changing at an extraordinarily rapid pace, especially with the new technologies. And I think the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in this sense, is unique in bringing together the rising countries of Asia to help better the lives of their own people, to help bring people from different cultures together to understand one another better, and to this interconnectivity, as was said beforehand, makes the peoples need one another more. And that, I think, creates greater stability, that creates better understanding, and it prevents those who want to disrupt societies from being able to gain footholds.
Earlier, we mentioned that the SCO started from security and peace, but now it's been developing into so many different areas, particularly economy, trade, culture, tourism, and technology, space, the list goes on. The important thing is how to make sure to create enough synergy always in these fields and to develop on top of what we already different countries have. Now, that requires a lot of, shall I say, smartness and intelligence in this regard. So I want to ask our guest over here, from where you are, how is that synergy should be created, not just bilaterally between China and Kazakhstan, but also among all the members? Eventually, when the synergy is there, we can always find something for the near future to develop on. So maybe from you, Mr. Chairman, tell us more about your thoughts,
91% of arrivals into Kazakhstan are actually coming from SCO member countries. You can imagine it's basically the bread and butter of the industry.
Shall I say you are at the right panel?
Exactly. Exactly. So, again, back to the points to piggyback on what we've discussed before, what Ambassador mentioned, that we've long been scared that we don't have access to sea, but we've finally found out that being land-linked is actually opening a lot more avenues than to your point about so-called co-opetition. We're no longer cooperating or competing. We're doing co-opetition. So if you look at the region, at Central Asia nowadays, Kazakhstan and the neighboring countries, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and we are offering this unique travel product, the commodity that has no expiration date, because Silk Road has never been livelier. Back to 2017 research by TripAdvisor and the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which went through the different platforms online and looked at the mentions of Silk Road. There were 300 million different references and mentions about the Silk Road. So I think based on this narrative, we have to look into both commonalities and differences of our nations, because tourism rests not only on commonalities, but actually differences. We look at what's different here with our neighbors and regions, uniqueness and so on, unique selling propositions. So based on this strong brand of the Silk Road, we have to enrich our cultural exchange. We have to, of course, keep on improving our logistical links in order to have the trade first going, because back in the day the Silk Road started with trade, and then the other exchanges came, both in terms of religion, culture, languages, and so on. So I think now tourism has to catch up with trade. As we've mentioned many times today, that the trade is growing between at least two neighboring countries, but we have maritime connection with Iran, we have connectivity improving with China. We have 43, for instance, flights weekly connecting 6 different cities in China, but that's going to be brought up to 124 by the year end. So using all of this, I think we have to bring the Silk Road brand up the agenda and start pushing it across the countries.
Right. And by the way, it's not just the SCO countries we're talking about. SCO also have, Professor Morandi, a number of dialogue partners and also observing nations. And if you look at the scale of these countries, you are covering tremendous amount of area of the world, and also so many different cultures, economy, raw materials, transportation, you name it. It's such a diverse players that we are talking about here. What would this diversity mean for our cooperation and dialogue, Professor Morandi? Of course, about ICO.
Absolutely, the potential is enormous, and the wisdom of policymakers who pursued the SCO, the Belt and Road Initiative, opened up these possibilities. We no longer have countries that are landlocked. These countries are themselves the center, like Kazakhstan have become the center of business, trade, culture, interaction, whereas 20, 30 years ago, we lived in a very different world. And now the SCO, because of this integration that's taking place across Asia, it is now able to look beyond the borders of the broader SCO, and these partner countries can become more increasingly involved. So these policymakers, which began, as you pointed out, through discussions on security, opened up doors that perhaps back then they never really knew would become so important, that we've moved on from security to business and trade, and then tourism and culture and language exchanges. Now, for example, at my university, when we first set up the Confucius Institute, I happened to be the first head of that institute.
Congratulations.
We integrated that into a BA program for students to study Mandarin. Now, our students who've graduated, even before they graduate, they all have jobs. They all they're better paid than other students who've learned other languages. And so I think that in future, we're going to have the same sort of thing for languages in Central Asia and other SCO members, because the more business, trade, tourism grow, the more important these countries become.
Yes, and I think one important notion about the SCO and this cooperation within SCO is promoting a global multilateral dialogue, not only within the organization, but also in a broader context. Kazakhstan this year is the holder of the rotating SCO presidency. And my question is to Mr. Saribhai, what role can this summit play leading up to the next year's SCO summit in China? What role can it play? And also, what can Kazakhstan and its stance on multilateral approach in its foreign policy do more to promote this dialogue in a broader context?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, Kazakhstan is a founding member of SCO, as well as the initiator country for SICA. And the question before was also about the synergies, and I would like maybe to come to your question from that point of synergizing efforts of multilateral structures. Today, during this, we are living in a very hard time of geopolitical tensions. So security must be, in any case, the major point of actions of member states, because without security you cannot talk about the cooperation, development, and prosperity. So that is why the hard issues of security still on an agenda, and it is my understanding that Shanghai Cooperation Organization will deepen its cooperative approach to fight with to make some counter measures against the terrorism anti-drug strategy, quite important issues. And SCO is very much keen to promote this cooperation of member states. And in that particular area, SICA can play as a nice outreach platform because the all SICA members, SCO, current SCO member states are part of SICA. Belarus, which will gain the status of full-fledged member, is observer in SICA. And we do have within the SICA process also a very large dimension of new challenges and threats. So there we can see the synergies because Shanghai Cooperation Organization implementing very well the human global counter-terror strategy. The same we wish to have within the SICA. Let's turn to some connectivity-related projects. President Tokayev promoted also connectivity during the SICA summit in 2022. And during this summit of SCO, there are ideas to have the partner network of large strategic ports and logistical centers. This is again what all speakers today are talking, to promote the trade, to promote the connectivity. And you mentioned about the new technologies, the ICTs, the information communication technologies. It is on a very high agenda here within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And we have the same approach within the SICA. We recently established the new area of cooperation and interaction of our member states, specifically related to the security of information and communication technologies. There are synergies. There are common approaches. Again, without multilateral approaches where all partners are equal, you cannot reach any goals. We can reduce the domination of major power only by promoting the partnership within the multilateral structures. And SCO is the great example of multilateralism, where all partners, regardless of the size of the economy or size of their population, they are all equal, because all decisions are very much inclusive, taken by consensus. This is quite important.
Mutual respect, always the most important principles.
It's the baseline,
yes,
of
for
the
developing countries,
yes.
emerging economies. And I think we are having such a great time talking to one another. You know, Alinor, I don't think we can wrap up today's conversation because there's still a lot of things, sparkles coming up out of these great panelists, but time is running out. So we would love to thank all of you for participating and providing your insights. And I'm sure this kind of conversation will continue.
Yes.
And with that, we are wrapping up our special program co-produced by CGTN and Silkway TV. SCO builds strength through multilateral dialogue. I'm your host, Tian Wei from CGTN.
And I'm Ainur Mangale. On behalf of our teams from Kazakhstan and China, thank you so much for joining us today. And bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.